I can work with this.
What's your name?
Carrie Kelly. Robin.
Sometimes it can be fun to push the boundaries of a character by redesigning them with a different gender, or reimagining them not just as a different gender, but a completely new character in addition. Welcome back, Nerd Squad. It's time to take some well-loved superheroes and check out some redesigns that flip their gender and offer us a different version and a different insight into who that super is and what they're about. There have been so many both official and non-official gender bends of supers over the years that many refer to that as Rule 63. Rule 63 implies that for every male character, somewhere there exists a female version, and for every female version, there exists a male version. Join me today as we work to prove this rule true by counting down the top 10 gender-bended superheroes. If you love this list and want to see more lists like it, possibly a gender bend / Rule 63 villains-focused list, let us know in the comments below. Alright, now let's get counting. Number 10. Rogue. Yep, a few different X-Men found themselves gender swapped in this alternate story out of 2000's issue of X-Men Millennial Visions. One story in the comic is called The Big X Change, not to be confused with The Big Exchange. In this story, Rogue is one of the X-Men who finds herself transformed into himself following exposure to Blanco rays, which combined with the mutant's unpredictable X-Factor results in Rogue's gender becoming reversed. In this alternate reality, Rogue was never able to reverse the effects of the Blanco ray emitter and so remains a hot male version of herself. Not going to lie, I think either way, Rogue looks really great. I also love that this version of Rogue still has the jacket. Everyone looks good in that jacket. Number 9. Green Lantern. The Green Lantern of Earth 11 is known as Kylie Rayner and is a straight-up gender-swapped version of Green Lantern Kyle Rayner. What's so cool about Earth 11 is everything pretty much mirrors DC's main continuity save for the characters' genders, which are all reversed. This includes the superheroes' costumes. Just like her male counterpart, Kylie Rayner also wears a full Green Lantern bodysuit with the mask. It's kind of refreshing to see that all that changes is the gender of the characters, but the outfits in the instance of Earth 11 swaps, for the most part, just stay exactly the same. There's also a Wonder Man on Earth 11, which I kind of love. Number 8. Lady Thor. The awesome thing about gender-bent characters is they all come in all kinds of forms. For Lady Thor, it's a female version of a generally male superhero identity, who this time around is simply a female character in that role. Lady Thor is Jane Foster. She first became Lady Thor in a What If comic that was later made canon. After Thor was deemed unworthy to wield Mjolnir following the events of Original Sin, a new female version of Mighty Thor appeared, who was later revealed to be Jane. The dramatic twist was that Jane was suffering from cancer at the time, and because the transformation to the Goddess of Thunder purged all toxins from Jane's body, including her chemo treatments, she was actually kind of dying as a result of her new role. Regardless of the consequences though, Jane refused to give up her heroic calling. Number 7. Wiccan. Wiccan is his own character and a member of the Young Avengers, but he is basically like the male version of Scarlet Witch, or as close as we'll get anyways. Wiccan is basically a combination of Scarlet Witch and Thor in terms of likeness and abilities. He also was at one point Scarlet Witch's fictional son, Billy, and because her children, Billy and Tommy, never really existed, he's also not that. It's very confusing, but for a time he was considered to be her reincarnated son, who didn't exist, despite existing separate from Wanda and having his own different parents. Anyways, now that's not part of the canon, I believe, so it's confusing when you have imaginary children. Number 6. Lady Punisher. Lady Punisher is Lynn Michaels, a former cop turned vigilante after she decided to take the law into her own hands. Lynn felt like the system was broken and corrupt, so decided to go out on her own. She was in pursuit of a criminal who had escaped justice when she ran into the Punisher. Lynn developed some romantic feelings towards Frank, but he never seemed to reciprocate them, and it was for this reason that she ended up going out on her own. Like Frank Castle, she has a thing for black leather and skulls. Number 5. Ironheart. Another lady who stepped into what was originally a mantle belonging to a man was Riri Williams. Riri was a child genius who ended up becoming the new Iron Man, and actually was mentored by an AI of Tony Stark himself. She ended up standing in for Tony, taking up the mantle Ironheart while he was in a coma following the events of the Second Civil War. Riri herself had actually been on his side in the war and worked to help Stark during its events, and during the fight against Captain Marvel. When Tony eventually returned and woke up from his coma, she ended up fighting alongside her teammates on the Champions for a while. Number 4. Nicole Fury. A lot of fans have made their own alternate versions of Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. There is no limit to genderbend cosplays and fan art, and while there are tons of different artistic depictions of what a female Nick Fury might look like, and various different outfit designs, there is even a female version of Nick Fury from the Marvel Universe. She comes from the alternate Earth of 81114, where she is the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., like her male 616 counterpart, and has bright red hair. Not going to lie, I actually prefer some of the fan art when it comes to this gender bend, but it's still cool to know that Marvel even already has a gender bent version of Nick themselves. Number 3. King of Cats. Maybe one of my favorite gender bends of all time. Carl Kyle is basically the male version of Catwoman. While he isn't a hero initially like Catwoman becomes, and pretty much only acts like a criminal, he does end up being reformed, and at this point I think most of us consider Catwoman more of a hero than a villain, so I figured it would still be appropriate in that regard to mention Carl here, because the other version of him is definitely, I think, more a hero at this point. He first appeared in Batman issue 69 in 1952, originally due to his feline and Catwoman-like style of crimes and the fact that he sent Selena flowers. Batman thought that Catwoman might be involved in the crimes, and perhaps even the two were in love, but later found out that she had no part in the King of Cats crimes. Batman tried to recruit her to help him and Robin catch the King of Cats, but she refused because, as we later find out, Carl Kyle is actually her brother. Carl eventually is captured by Batman after Catwoman saves them both from some hungry zoo tigers, not kidding here, and Carl surrenders and agrees to serve his time and reform his criminal ways, which he actually stays true to, eventually getting off on parole, but never returning to a life of villainy, and instead becoming an ally to superheroes like his sister had. Number 2. X-23. Wolverine has had a few female versions of him pop up over the years, but while Laura is often seen in a way as his genetic daughter, she is also in a sense kind of his genetic twin, or sort of like a genetic clone. Well, she's almost a clone. She wasn't made exclusively out of Wolverine's DNA alone, of course, so she isn't a direct female copy of him, but Laura Kinney, or X-23 as she is known, has herself been known as Wolverine, adopting the mantle for herself for a time. She also shares Wolverine's bluntness and aggression when it comes to her personality. There is something animalistic about her, but despite her being like a female version of everyone's favorite mutant, she has also very much come into her own. In fact, while many people love Logan, there are some who even prefer Laura Kinney's Wolverine to his. Number 1. Gwenpool. When talking about female versions of the anti-hero Deadpool, we could talk about Lady Deadpool and make her the priority. But why do that when we could just as easily talk about the awesomeness that is Gwenpool? Gwenpool is from an alternate Marvel universe where she is her world's Deadpool, or more specifically, her world's combo of Deadpool and Spider-Man's girlfriend, Gwen Stacy. She originally comes from a reality like our own, where comics are a thing, and they are filled with superheroes and supervillains. Gwen decides to become a costumed vigilante all her own, as opposed to settling for just being the extra or bystander that she is in a comic book world. Like Deadpool, Gwenpool also seems to have some pretty interesting self-awareness when it comes to the inner workings of the comic book world and her place in it, even at one point willing herself through awareness to become a mutant. Thank you so much for watching, Nerd Squad. I hope you enjoyed this list. If you could see any Rule 63 cosplay of any character, who would you be most interested in seeing? Are there any gender-bent versions of characters you'd like to see introduced in the comics? Is there a gender-swapped version of a superhero that you like better than the original? Let us know in the comments below. And while you're on your way down there, why not click that like if you enjoy gender bends just as much as we do. This has been Top 10 Nerd, and I'm your host, Amanda McKnight. You stay nerdy, YouTube. And just to be clear for that outro, you can do basically the comment, then like, then I just say bye. Sorry to make that confusing. Should have edited that last part. And sorry if you're a nerd and I spelled Gwenpool wrong for parts of that. Sorry about that. Okay, bye.